Thank you all so much for coming out today. In case you all don't know who I am, my name is Anthony Tarullo. I'm the Executive Director for the Dubois County Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin today, I would like to introduce our Board of Directors. Mr. Mark Stezik of Lincoln Amphitheater. Please give everyone a round of applause if you don't mind. Who is our Board Secretary? Our Board Treasurer, Ms. Rachel Kleesner of OFS. Our wonderful Board President, Ms. Amy Gelhausen of Qualicare Home Care. Mr. Paul Wall, who is a retiree from Kimball Electronics. Ms. Jamie Poon from Southeast Dubois County Schools. Mr. David Ring from Ring Farms. Give him a big old round of applause. Contessa Monterez from Old National Bank. And an absentee, Mr. Michael Olinger from Freedom Bank. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of our generous sponsors for today's event. All of their generous donations have made this event possible. Our gold sponsor for this year is a German-American bank. Let's give them a big old round of applause. Our blue sponsors are Memorial Hospital, Touch a Class, Old National Bank, Universal Design Associates, the Dubois County Republican Party, Jasper Engines, Premier Properties, and Freedom Bank. Let's go ahead and give those folks a big round of applause. Our silver sponsors are Far Best Foods, Sisters of St. Benedict, Wire Electric, Meyer Distributing, Ferdinand Community Center, Kirstein's Homes, and Matrix Integration. Let's give those folks a big round of applause too. I would also like to specifically thank the venue here, Klubhaus 61, for the event space and the wonderful meal they've provided today. Thank you. On behalf of myself and the Board of Directors, I want to welcome all of you here today and thank you all for your continued support of the Dubois County Chamber of Commerce. Our ongoing mission here is to serve businesses of all sizes in Dubois County by providing leadership and member-to-member collaborative opportunities to foster growth and profitability. The Chamber serves as the eyes, ears, and the voice of our members by attending city and county meetings, by sitting on various countywide committees and boards, and we strive to be involved with important issues and business needs in our county. Very exciting news. We've established a quarterly small business grant that is available to our members. So our third quarter grant was recently awarded to a business here in Jasper called Jumping Jasper in collaboration with Freedom Bank. Applications for our fourth quarter grant, which we are currently in, are now available on our website. So if you are an active member of the Dubois County Chamber of Commerce and are looking to apply for a good chunk of change, please get on our website and check that out. You'll also find on your tables a QR code that will take you directly to our grant application. It's stuck inside a little mom water koozie, so those are for you to have. The deadline for submitting your information is December 9th, and we encourage all of you to check out the grant opportunity and apply. While we want to foster growth of new business, we never want to overlook the talent and leadership that already exist in the county here. One of the things we are most proud of is having this platform to be able to recognize some outstanding leaders and some outstanding businesses in this community. At this time, I would like to bring to the stage our board president, Ms. Amy Gelhausen. Let's give her a round of applause.
Good morning, good afternoon. We're close on the cusp here. Every year, we have a growing number of names that are submitted for our annual awards, and we submit these on all areas of local media. I want to say thank you so much to everyone that took time this year to make all these fantastic nominations. Every single one of these individuals and businesses that we are going to recognize here today have made a lasting impact on the business and economic development of Dubois County and should be commended for their efforts. Being nominated by your peers is worthy of praise in and of itself, and every single finalist is deserving of these awards. As I introduce each finalist in each category, I want to give you just a small snippet of information that was included in our nominations. The first group of finalists that I would like to introduce to you is for the award of 2024 Dubois County Young Professional of the Year. Our first finalist is Megan Durloff. During her 13-year career in the criminal justice system in Dubois County, Megan was always motivated to bring high-quality, evidence-based rehabilitation programs to those in the legal system. She served on the Dubois County Collaborative Committee, which played an integral role in identifying unmet mental health needs in our community. This partnership became the launch pad for bringing a recovery residence to Dubois County. Megan now serves as the Director of Operations for the Dove Recovery House here in Jasper. Since opening in late 2022, Megan has helped more than 50 women receive life-saving treatment services at this location. Megan's dedication has deepened the Recovery House's impact on the local community. Megan currently serves on committees for Dubois County Cares, Dubois County Advocacy for Recovery and Prevention Council, and the Dubois County Public Health Partnership. Our next finalist is Dustin Betts. As a professional pilot and certified flight instructor at Huntingburg Regional Airport, Dustin is an aviation instructor to over 28 high school students through the Patoka Valley Career Technical Education Co-op. Beyond his professional duties of leading and mentoring our youth, Dustin addresses challenges like limited resources and time by utilizing his professional network, reaching out for industry support, and finding innovative solutions to keep the program thriving. His commitment to mentoring extends well beyond the classroom, with Dustin staying connected to former students, organizing guest speakers, and offering extra instruction. Dustin's proactive approach to teaching also includes collaborating with local businesses and aviation experts to strengthen aviation's role in our region. His efforts align with Dubois County's broader goals, emphasizing education, economic growth, and talent development. Dustin is heavily involved in many youth volunteer organizations within our county. Our last finalist is Andy Chin. Andy currently serves as a Northeast Dubois Junior-Senior High School principal. Throughout the years, Andy has helped the school corporation obtain hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money. He has also helped develop the Indiana College Core 30 program with Ivy Tech. And most recently, Andy developed what is known as Jeep Enterprises, in which all of the career technical education courses work together to support and enhance their student-run business of Jeep engineering and manufacturing. Andy leads the partnership between this program and multiple Dubois County industries. This program gives students real-life work experience, allowing them to create parts and services for many local businesses. Andy is a trained school safety officer and involved in many local and state organizations, including time served on the Dubois County Foundation Scholarship Committee. The winner of the 2024 Dubois County Young Professional Award is Dustin Betts. Dustin, if you'll please come to stage and get your award. Come on. The next award we are going to recognize is 2024 Dubois County Business Person of the Year. Our first finalist is Devin Springston. Devin is the third generation owner and current president and CEO of Branded by Woods, formerly Woods Printing Company in Holland. 50 years ago, Woods Printing started their operation in the back of a barber shop. Under Devin's leadership, Woods Printing became Branded by Woods, which now has 2 locations in Dubois County, in Holland and Huntingburg. Devin works directly with the Dubois County Community Foundation to keep the original legacy of the company alive through the Maurice and Emma Lou Woods Foundation, which most recently is known in the Holland community for their instrumental donation, which led to the construction of the Holland Commons, a community green space that is used for many community events. In 2023, Devin launched the Maurice and Emma Lou Woods Memorial Golf Scramble at the Huntingburg Country Club, with the proceeds going to the Huntingburg Country Club Endowment, the Dubois County Community Foundation, which helps ensure that the local club can continue to serve our community for many years to come. Devin currently serves as Board Vice President of Destination Huntingburg, is a member of the Women in Print Alliance, and is involved in various other organizations in the communities that Branded by Woods serves. In 2022, she proudly received the first ever Women in Print Award from the Great Lakes Graphic Association as a testament to her leadership in the industry. Our second finalist is Larry Carpenter. Larry is the current president and owner of Carpenter Enterprises. He started his rental portfolio when he was just 18 years old and still in high school. This side of his business has now grown to over 400 rentals that spanned over 10 counties in southern Indiana. 4 years ago, Larry expanded his rental business into Carpenter Realty. In conjunction with buying and selling real estate, this side of his business also focuses on property restorations. His focus is creating safe, beautiful homes in an effort to clean up neighborhoods in our community. Carpenter Realty has recently expanded beyond Dubois County with the opening of another office in Newburgh. He also expanded Carpenter Enterprises to include dumpster rentals. And in addition to his work in the rental industry, his family has a passion for staying healthy and active, which led him to his most recent acquisition of B&B Fitness in Jasper, thus diversifying his company even further. Our third finalist is Claudia Juarez. Claudia is the owner of Cafe Pina here in Jasper. She is a California native who relocated to Indiana, bringing a bit of West Coast flavor to the Midwest. As a chef with a passion for creating wonderful food and an inviting atmosphere, Claudia not only owns and runs her restaurant, but also a bakery and a catering company. Her culinary journey has taken her to incredible places, including working at the Grammys and the Oscars. She is passionate about crafting dishes that create lasting memories, whether through daily operations or large-scale catering events. In addition to her love for food, giving back to the community is also very important to her. Claudia regularly donates extra meals to the ER staff at Memorial Hospital and often to the local police station. For Claudia, this is her way of using her work to make a small but meaningful impact in our community. The winner of the 2024 Dubois County Business Person of the Year is Devin Springston. The last award of the day is for 2024 Dubois County Business of the Year. For this award, we have 4 finalists in this category. Our first finalist is Blesh Brothers. Blesh Brothers was established in the early 1900s by twin brothers Ira and Ore Blesh. They originally sold workhorses to local farmers. In 1937, Blesh Brothers added tractors to their farm equipment line. In 1996, Kevin Libahusen and Wayne Kemper purchased the business from the Blesh family. In addition to now selling several brands of large farm equipment, they also sell consumer lawnmowers and small utility tractors. They employ dedicated mechanics and service workers that provide themselves in keeping local farmers in business. Blesh Brothers has been a staple to the Dubois County agricultural community for well over 100 years. Our second finalist is Evil Hair TV. Evil Hair TV in Ferdinand started in a basement in 1954. Scott, Keith, and their team have consistently embraced product change with first-class service, throughout the sales process. 70 years later, Eagle Hair TV has evolved and grown to be a trusted partner for the latest technology and product needs for our community. Our third finalist is Sultan's Run. Sultan's Run was built in 1992 as a premium regional golf course. A little over a dozen years ago, investment began in people, equipment, and property to expand the service offerings and transform the business into a boutique resort. Over the past 5 years, millions of dollars have been invested towards this vision. Earlier this year, phase 3 of the transformation was completed when the Klubhaus was expanded and fully renovated. They now have 4 main lines of business, including world-class golf, chef-inspired banquets and catering, luxury lodging, and premium merchandise. In addition to providing premium entertainment options for the local community, Sultan's Run is an important part of the Dubois County tourism industry, attracting guests from all over the world who stay in local lodging, eat at local restaurants, and shop at other local businesses. Last year, Sultan's brought a major LPGA tournament to Dubois County, further deepening their roots on the economic footprint. The Sultan's Run team supports more than 130 regional charitable endeavors each year. Our fourth and final finalist is Premier Property Management. Headquartered in Jasper, Premier Property Management, Kirstein's Realty, has been dedicated to serving the housing needs of our community for over 30 years. Their mission is to provide quality housing options at an affordable price, ensuring that everyone has a place they can call home. Over the years, they have constructed thousands of apartments, often in rural areas where housing options are often limited, thus enhancing the living standards and making a significant impact in our communities. The Premier Property Management team believes in giving back to the communities they serve. They volunteer with many local nonprofits and always support community events. They take pride in their work and contributing positively to Dubois County. The 2024 Dubois County Business of the Year Award goes to Sultan's Run. Before I close, I would just like to give one more acknowledgement and a big round of applause to all of this year's finalists and winners. Like I mentioned, we had a lot of nominations come in, and for all the great talent that we have here in Dubois County, I think that's just a testament, a lot of people in this room. Next year, we will be searching for a whole new group of professionals and businesses to recognize. So when that time comes, usually it's a month or two out before our annual meeting, I encourage all of you to think about others that you can nominate, be it a business, a young professional, or a business person of the year, because like I said, I think one of the greatest things about this is just being acknowledged by your peers that you're doing a good job and really contributing locally, you know, to the business landscape of Dubois County. So whenever you see those nominations form come up, please make sure that you think about someone that you can acknowledge. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Bryce Morrison. Bryce, if you want to make your way to stage. Bryce was born and raised in Huntingburg and spent the better part of his career in the healthcare industry, where he was a local marketer with Heart to Heart Hospice. His wife Jill was an occupational therapist at Scenic Hills in Ferdinand, where they now live with their 3 kids. Not at Scenic Hills, but in Ferdinand. You may wish sometimes, right? The Morrisons started their Mom Water project when nothing more than an idea just over 4.5 years ago. 4.5 short years ago, right? January 2020, right before COVID hit. A year later, in March 2021, they sold their first case of product. They are now a top 10 national alcoholic brand in the liquor-based ready-to-drink space. Their story of local homegrown entrepreneurship is one of epic proportions. Please help me welcome to stage Bryce.
Thank you. First off, congrats to all the winners. It's pretty cool to see. There's a lot of familiar friends, family, bunch of faces. Worked for several of you. Shout out Matrix and Sultans. Technically, it was one of my first jobs. So, got asked. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and speak. Tried to figure out what would be the best thing to talk about, and I think I'll kind of take you along a little bit of our journey of what's happened. We've done a really poor job of telling the story from a local perspective. You know, we have grown so fast and so furious that we're focused on all these states, and which we'll kind of get into, but sometimes, you know, we forget to tell the story locally. And so hopefully I can tell the story a little bit of how we got here, and maybe it'll inspire other folks to do it, because if, you know, honestly, if we can do it, anyone can. As you'll kind of see, we're pretty ordinary. The way we live, the jobs that we held, our education, all the things, you know, the funding the lack of funding that we might have had. Yet I think through maybe a vision and a passion and maybe just kind of a cool spark and idea, here we are, you know, 4 short years later, which technically 3.5 years of actually selling products. So for those of you that don't know me, I am Bryce Morrison. My history, I grew up in Huntingburg and Jill was in Ferdinand. And I've always been in some form of sales and marketing. I'm an IU grad, but that's not saying much because I'm a terrible student. So I always start with that. You don't have to be a great student to get to where you need to be. I was a bit like Van Wilder going to Indiana University. So I was there for, I think I had 3 different majors. I was there for about almost 6 years. And I still really didn't figure out what I wanted to do until maybe about 4 years ago. So, you know, I'm not traditionally probably what you would find in a position like this, but, and again, I think it just goes back to how, you know, the American dream, I guess, is kind of that generic term, but it is real. It happens, and it can happen to anyone. But grew up in this area, family of teachers, and, you know, like I said, grew up in sales and marketing, and it was about 2018, and shout out to my lovely wife, Jill. So she was the therapy director at Scenic Hills, and my most recent job, for those of you that didn't know, I was with Heart to Heart Hospice, which is kind of how Amy and I's paths crossed, and along with a lot of you others. So, you know, how did we get here? 2018 was kind of when this all, I guess the spark or the idea started. Jill and I were vacationing in the Dominican Republic, and we had, it was one of those all-inclusives. And so the first thing you do when you get to these places is you're handed this really gorgeous drink that's chock full of sugar. You start drinking that, and that's usually the beginning of the end for that day. You wake up the next morning and you feel rotten. And so they had these big, I'll say, kind of jugs, fancy jugs of fruit-infused water that was around the resort. It happened to be passion fruit that was floating in the water, and Jill started drinking this water and, you know, commenting how amazing it was. It was light and refreshing, and all the things you wanted hydrating after a long evening the night before. And so she began to drink this water, talking about it all week. By the end of the week, she just had the idea to say, I'm going to fill up my Yeti, go up with this water, walk up to the bar and ask them just to put a little bit of vodka in it. I want to keep drinking the water, but I also want to, you know, be able to drink something here. So that was where kind of she noticed that she didn't feel as bad at the end of the day. She wasn't as bloated, like all these things that kind of come along with it. So that became her go-to. When we came home, I think we had just put in a pool recently. So like our place was a gathering on really hot, sunny days. And that was 2018, which is also when all of these hard seltzers started releasing into the market en masse. And I think Jill and all of her friends tried every one of them. They would always have a new one, try it out. And they're like, you know, we like drinking these things, but they really hurt by the end of the day. You know, they were bloated and had a headache and, you know, all the things that come along with it. So she looked at me and was like, how do we do that thing that I was drinking back in the Dominican? Like, well, easy enough. So I went to the store. I bought a flavored vodka, you know, pretty cheap. I think it was like $10. Brought it home, said, here you go. You know, add this to your water. So she would take a Dasani or Aquafina water bottle, take a little drink out, and replace it with that flavored vodka. And she kind of made note, like, this is really good. It tastes very similar to what I was drinking. So that was kind of how the idea was born. So these started popping up all around our house. We do have 3 kids, and those kids and us, we drink nothing but water. So as you can imagine, this was a bit of a problem. And I always call them Jill's little landmines. They were everywhere. So they'd be in a cooler, they'd be in the fridge, they'd be in the beverage fridge, whatever. And when you have 3 kids that really don't pay attention to what they're drinking, they just pop it open and don't realize it's not sealed and take a little drink. And they would notice pretty quickly that the water tasted a bit funky. And so I looked at Jill, I was like, you really should probably start to use a different water bottle or do something. And so she's like, okay, fine. So she took a marker and she just scribbled mom on all of her Aquafina water bottles, threw them in the fridge, told the kids, said, if it says mom on it, those are mine, off limits. And so it's funny because the term mom water wasn't actually coined by us, technically. It was coined by all of Jill's friends because they would always see her drinking one of these and say, oh, look, it's Jill's mom water. Kudos to her because she's the first one that kind of came to me and was like, listen, drink's great. My friends like it. Seems like it's solving a bit of a problem. Like, in a hot day, they just, we don't feel as bad at the end of the day. And as a mom or a dad, the next day you have to function, unfortunately. So she kind of said, I love these things, but they're a real pain to make. And so, we should do this. I was like, what are you talking about? We should do it. She said, well, it doesn't exist in the market. All my friends really like it. They're kind of a pain to make, so it would be a big convenience factor. And, we could even call it mom water. I was like, that sounds great, but no, there's no way. Like, it seems so far off. I assumed you had to own a distillery, all of those types of things. And I said, we don't have the finances to do that. We don't have the know-how. It seemed like so far-fetched that there was no reason even thinking about it or getting excited about it. So about 9 months of persistence from Jill. Every once in a while, she'd just kind of bring it up, like, telling you we should do something with it. I'm like, yeah, okay. And I think one day, one of Jill's friends picked us and some of the guys up, and Jared, I think you were in the car, from the golf course, and one of the moms picked us all up, and as we're coming back, and I probably had a few too many mom waters that day, but she just made a note said something about Jill's mom water, and for some reason it just hit my ears different that day, and kind of, I could see that on a shelf somewhere, like the vision seemed to just kind of be there, and so I came back and I said, okay, let's see what we can do. I'll start to kind of do a little digging. Not knowing anything, the first place I approached was French Lick. I knew their master distiller, Alan, and I kind of went over thinking, maybe this is something we'll partner with a distillery. I have to have the vodka. And, I pitched the idea, and he's like, hey, I think it's a great idea, fantastic. But he's like, probably not something that, would make sense to do here. So then it kind of fizzled out for a month or so. And then I got introduced to a company out of Louisville, Kentucky called Flavor Man. And Flavor Man is just what it sounds like. They're a flavor house. You go to them with a concept. It could be a protein powder, an alcoholic drink, a tea, whatever. And you say, this is what I want to do. And they're like a huge, awesome chemistry lab. They can pretty much do whatever you want around the parameters that you set. So once I found Flavor Man, it's like, okay, well now there's we sent in this idea, and I'm thinking the reason it hasn't been done, there's probably a good reason. There's probably a logistical reason. Maybe there's a tax reason. Maybe it's not allowed. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't work. So we sent in the proof of concept. They sent back and said, here's a scope of work. Here's what it would cost. And sure, it's easy. Okay. So we're thinking, good, we're done. Like that's the hard part. Quickly found out it wasn't. And to give you how much lack of preparation that we had, excuse me, as we started that project, I didn't even know we had to have a distributor. I assumed we could just have alcohol and sell it to stores as long as we had the right licensing. Nope. So we have to find a distributor in the state of Indiana to carry our product. Turned out that was really hard. Finally found that, thinking, now we're good. Nope. Then we have to find a place to make it, which ended up being the hardest part for 2 reasons. Number one, we were early in the seltzer game. Not many folks were doing skinny cans. And for those of you that don't know, little tidbit, the reason up till recently you haven't seen a lot of canned water is because something needs to pressurize the can. If it's a soda, if it's a beer, that's carbonation, right? CO2 pressurizes the can, they don't get flat. Well, when you're water and you don't have any carbonation in your drink, you have to have something to pressurize the can, so they use nitrogen. So they have these nitrogen dosing machines that put a little shot of nitrogen underneath the lid, pressurizes the can, you're good to go. So we had to find somebody that could do that. that could deal with liquor, that had a canning line that could do skinny cans, not just the standard, because they were still pretty new back then. So we finally, when we started that was about, I would say when we started looking for a co-packer, manufacturer, was about May, maybe, of that year. And if you know anything about May of 2020, what was going on in the industry, the places we were looking for were not the massive plants that we run at now, because we couldn't afford to run $1 million run of alcohol. We were looking for really small places, and every single one of those really small places had shut down, and they were making hand sanitizer. So it made our project even harder. So it took us about a year to find the right place. We actually started at a small brewery in Maumee Bay, or called Maumee Bay Brewing Company, up in Toledo, Ohio. And the way that our runs would work is I was part-time working at the time during COVID, which I wasn't allowed in a lot of my accounts, being in the healthcare industry during that pandemic. So I would order all these materials up to Maumee Bay, and they would produce it. And we actually found a mobile canning line that would show up with a box truck with a canning line in the back of it, set it up, run for about 4 days. I think our first run was about 750 cases. I think we actually ran about 3,000, but we had orders for about 750 cases. And Jill and I went up during an ice storm. Matt Crane, I know you're in here somewhere. Pretty sure you were on the phone with us while we were in said ice storm outside of Cincinnati. And we talked about how we always had 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And that was really what we did. We would think we were in the home stretch, and then we'd have a massive setback. And then we'd think we're in the home stretch, massive setback. So we kind of coined that term, like we're always taking 2 steps forward, but we always have a step back. So as long as we're continuing to progress, all's good. So we did our first run up in Maumee Bay, and we were able to get sold into the market in March of 2021. Funny story, and just to talk about the obstacles, an example of one of those obstacles would be the very first run we ever made at Maumee Bay. You got to think there's a canning line that's running in this dingy old brewery. They're pretty new to this. They've not done a lot of this before. Smells great versus beer. You got mom water in there, and it just smelled like a floral factory. But we ran a bunch of these cans, and as they're going through trying to hone in the canning line, there's all kinds of mistakes and cans that are dented and everything on the floor. And Jill and I would walk around with a 5-gallon bucket and pick up every one of those dirty cans. Because for us, it was liquid gold. We were like, this is the first time ever it's being canned. Every one of these cans is coming home with us. So we would do that over the course of these 3 days. We also got on the line. We were helping them. They were understaffed. So we worked pretty hard for a few days there, got everything ready. Well, at the end, by the time they're to the last flavor, it happened to be Karen, which was our lemon blueberry flavor. They kind of had the line honed in. So there weren't as many mistakes. And we were like, well, we want to take some of our product back home so we can share it with friends and family. And so I said, I'm just going to grab a couple cases of Karen right off the pallet that were coming right off the last ones off the line, and throw it in the car, and we're off. So the next day is a Saturday. Our friends came over. We're all excited. Like, we're drinking mom water today. And one of our friends, the Karen flavor was the one she was looking forward to the most. She pops that bad boy open, takes a drink, and spits it out. And I was like, what's wrong? She's like, there's something badly wrong with it. I was like, really? I took a drink, and I'm going to guess it was about 150 proof. I'm surprised it didn't burn a hole in the can on the way home from Ohio. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God. I mean, we had a second mortgage on our home at the time. We did not have a lot of money. It was just us doing this. We had all of our money into this run, and I'm thinking, oh my God, we've got orders we got to fulfill. And at that point, we had a contract with Indiana and Kentucky. And I'm freaking out thinking all of our stuff is done. And what's crazy is we were tasting these things coming off the line. We went up, they'd start the run, they'd go right out of the tanker, okay, these big tanks, and we'd try it and we go, yeah, it tastes good. Can't taste the alcohol. So then I called on that Saturday, I got a hold of the president. I'm like, man, something is wrong. Do not send anything out. We need to figure out what's going on. So he went, he agreed. Well, long story short, their blender didn't blend. So he threw a bunch of stuff in the tank, and if you know anything about water and alcohol, right, all the alcohol is on the top and all the water's on the bottom. So that tank, when we were tasting it, coming right out of the bottom in the very early part of the line, tasted great. Couldn't taste the alcohol because there wasn't any in it. All the alcohol was in the top. So those last few cases coming off, and it's crazy. We kind of we kind of look back and go, things happen for a reason, because if that wouldn't have happened, there's a good chance we never would have made it to market. That's lawsuit material. We didn't have enough, we didn't have a big legal team. We had no legal team. It was me usually trying to research online what was going on. AI would have been really helpful back then. And so, that was just an example of some of the crazy things that have had to happen to us to get there. So we sold our first case in March of 2021. I honestly, when we did our initial, when we were going to the bank saying, hey, we need a loan and all this, they're like, can you give us an idea of what you think your sales will look like? I'm like, yeah, sure. I have no idea. The only thing that we knew was our distributor also carried High Noon at the time, and High Noon had just started to kind of get, they weren't as big as they are now, but they were still doing well. And then I remember thinking, I looked at it, and they said they were doing, I think it was 5,000 or 10,000 cases a month of High Noon at the time. And I was like, well, that's bonkers. So they wanted me to give here's your best stab at it, and really, if it went well, what do you think that would look like? So on the really well, that's what it would look like at the end of year 2. I said, if I can get to the point where we're doing 5,000 or 10,000 cases a month, that would be insane. And really thinking, if we get 5,000 or 10,000 cases at all, that's going to be insane. Because our whole goal, honestly, we weren't looking at this like some big national business. We were looking at can we get these on shelves locally so that Jill doesn't have to make them anymore? That was about it. So by that August, we had sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 cases. Just in Indiana, Kentucky, we were out of stock pretty much the whole year, because it was just us waiting on the money to come in so that we could spend more money on the next run. And we had a bunch of people in the industry that would tell us hey, you have something very, very special. And these were industry veterans that had been in the industry for 20 plus years. We had one that said, I will quit my job today and come run your company if you want. And we were like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, he does well in the industry. And they explained it as, they said, in the alcohol world, and I think this would be true for probably any business. They said there's 3 pillars. You've got your brand, super important. You've got your product. It's got to be quality. You got a good product. And you have a story. And if you have one of those 3, you could survive on that, especially in the alcohol world. Tito's is a great example. Their product is not anything special. It's vodka. It's tasteless, right? It's very generic. Sample 10 vodkas, good luck trying to tell the difference. Their branding, if you really look at their branding, it's called Tito's. Vodka was always a Russian thing, or a European thing. That was your good vodkas. It's called Tito's. It's crazy. You look at their branding, it's terrible. But he had a great story, and he stuck with it. He maxed out 17 credit cards. He put his money on it. He bet on himself, and that carried their brand into where they are today, which is the largest spirit producer in the United States. So we had all these industry folks saying, you guys have all 3. You have a really unique story. You're not from the industry. You also have an incredible brand, and your branding is very different. And for us, before I get there, and then the product, right? We had a unique product that didn't exist in the market. So it was actually almost like solving a problem in the marketplace. So that was when we kind of knew we had something special. We ended up, a lot of you, probably know John Bell. He's out in Arizona now. He was a longtime friend of ours. We are part of a local bourbon club, and John was a member, and we were friends with him for a long time. And he kind of made mention. He said, "Listen, if you guys ever you want help," he's like, "and I think you should be going big with it. I don't think you should sit around and not do anything." He said, "I'm in. I'll help." And Jill and I, not being entrepreneurs and being a little more on the conservative side of all that, we're like, feels like now we're just starting to not put our entire checks into Mom Water every month from our other job. So we were kind of like, maybe we should just slow roll this thing. And we had industry folks and John kind of yelling, going, that wouldn't be a good idea. You've got something special, run with it. So we did bring on John as a partner. The 3 of us are the owners. We haven't, we've had many private equity and everything else want to come in, and we've held very true to our vision of it, of wanting to be the owners and to be kind of the small, no pun intended, maybe pun intended, mom and pop of the alcohol industry, because it's kind of a special thing. There's not a lot of independence in the alcohol world. If you know anything, it's I think they say 90% of the businesses are owned by 10 companies. So it's a really interesting, the whole thing is very, very interesting. So the branding, I'll touch on that real quick before I get to kind of where we're at today, but the branding was something that we thought was really unique. we joke that Jill's the inside of the mom water cans, I'm more the outside of the cans. If you know me at all, you know I'm very, very left brain. I'm not super organized. I don't prepare for things like this. I just like to do them and off the cuff and be genuine and authentic. And so as we're going through a brand, that was a big thing we wanted to maintain, was like, we want to be genuine, we want to be authentically ourselves. We will own the fact that we're not industry folks, and we did. Ends up that was a really good decision. The other part of it was, we don't want this to necessarily be about the alcohol. If it's called mom water, we don't want that to come off the wrong way. We don't want to promote mothers drinking and things like that. We want this to be kind of a celebration of motherhood, and so to do that, why not give our flavors names? Something no one had ever done in the industry, and we thought, I think that would be a pretty cool idea if we can pull that off in an authentic way and not a campy way. We think that would be neat. And I kind of remember I was on the fence. I'm like, is it going to come off right, or will it not? Turns out it did, and it made a huge impact in our business. One of many decisions, but we love it. It's one of the most favorite things is when we're doing any kind of event. No one ever comes up and says, I want a lemon blueberry. Or like, I want a Karen. I want a Susan, I want a Nancy, a Linda. The names, we put about this much thought into the first 4. Again, we didn't think it would get this big. So, the Linda flavor is from the Listen Linda YouTube video, if you've ever seen that. A little kid pleading with his mom, Listen Linda. We just thought that's a perfect mom moment. Why not Linda? Everybody's like, why is Jill's name not on the can? She did not want her name on the can. I tried. There are some images with Jill on a can like that we got early on, and that's about the only ones that exist. So we said, well, what's better? Let's put your alter ego on there, which is Julie. So our kids coined that term when we're usually on vacation. She turns into Julie. So, that was about the only one that had any kind of meaning. We did pick Karen before the meme. So I'm going to put that out there. That was actually before COVID. We picked the Karen name, and then COVID happened. That's when the meme happened. So we just rolled with it. More recently, our mothers are on there. My mom, Kathy, who's here, she's the newest flavor. John's mom, Mary, she's the other newest flavor. And Jill's mom may or may not be making an appearance here in the spring. So stay tuned for that one. All of those things said, we just started by that. I'd say 6 to 7 months after we sold our first case, we brought on John, and John's first words were, y'all need to probably look at quitting your job. We got a lot of work to do. And that was probably at the point we started freaking out. I think Jill literally looked at me and went, so wait, who's going to pay us? I'm like, well, that's us. First hire is my sister Kara, who's our CEO now. I joke that, Josh, who's also with us, he's a regional VP of the Midwest. Josh is probably a little more right brain. I'm way, way left brain. Kara got both of them, so much better CEO. So she was our first one. She worked here locally, and I'm like, everybody was kind of yelling at us like, don't do friends and family. Terrible idea, terrible idea. And I was like, well, we looked at it like, we had a lotto card, and who are we going to share it with, and who do we trust with that? And for us, it was friends and family, and so that's what we did. Turns out it was amazing, and it might not work for everyone, but for us, it was the right decision. I'm talk to my siblings more now than we ever did, kind of forced to, but it's also fun, and we do it outside of work more. Jill and I, most people kind of cringe when they say, but we work side by side now every day out of our home. So in a way, like you have to set your ego aside and say, listen, as long as you don't have a big ego coming into all this, and you just want to win and you want to learn and you're fine with criticism, it works, and it worked great for us. So that was our first, hires, which was, it went from this part-time gig during COVID that was going pretty well to we just quit our jobs. We have no other jobs. We all went into debt, and we hired friends and family that now rely on us to make sure we don't steer this thing into a ditch. And pretty surreal moment. I'll never forget, because when we at Maumee Bay Brewing Company, we had sold, by the end of that year, we'd sold around 38,000 cases, which was wild. We had hit $1 million in sales, and we were like, this is insane. And our first run, we knew we had outgrown this little co-packing facility with the box truck. So we knew we had to go to a bigger one. So we went to the bigger one. And our first run there, because of their minimum order quantity that we had to do, was 40,000 cases. So we went from selling in a year 38,000 cases to having to fund 40,000 cases in a single month run, which is terrifying. not knowing what we're doing. So turns out it was good. We've actually moved co-packers 3 or 4 times. That's a story for another day, but you talk about obstacles. Trying to find good partners in the industry can be really tough. I mean, we've worked local. Branded by Woods is who we went with early on. We're like, we want to work local, and we want to try to do as much local. As many, we have people calling us every day, and we always wanted to try to do as much as we can local, as long as we can, to support as much as we can local. So we had a lot of partners in that, which was awesome for our business, especially as we got to Dadwater. That entire brand was developed Branded by Woods, so very appropriate that you won today. So, as we got into this at the end of that year, like I said, 38,000 cases, and we had about 8 employees. The next year, we sold 487,000 cases, and I think our employees went up to 14, 13, around that range. The following year, we sold 787,000 cases, which was last year. This year, we will sell probably just under 1 million cases. We have popped into I think we're right now maybe about 12th. We kind of, it always depends on this industry, who all's coming in every year and what big brands release what as to where we're at. But we float somewhere between 9th and 12th all the time nationally. High Noon being our category leader. And we are in 36 states, and we just hired our 34th employee. We are all virtual, because you got to think back to when we started. It was just before COVID. You weren't allowed to be in an office at that point in time, so we were looking at like, well, we can't afford an office, so we do everything via Zoom or us Google. Google Invite. We were like, what are the cheapest tools we can use? What are the free ones we can use? And that's kind of what we started doing, just piecing it together and finding our own way in the market. And again, I think for us, it was being true to ourselves. We weren't trying to be other people. We said when we get into this, we really wanted to try to do the business our way, in our own fun, unique way. Because at the end of the day, we're like, we can't overthink this. We're selling a party. Like, we are alcohol. It has to be fun, and to a degree, like, you can't take yourself too seriously. We're not rocket scientists. So we said, when we bring on folks, they're going to be virtual. We have employees that live anywhere from California, Texas, Maryland, Florida, Chicago, to local. So we were like, unlimited vacation days. And everybody's like, that sounds wild. We're like, yeah, but we're not going to police people from across the globe. And you're in different time zones. You're in different markets doing different work with different folks with different schedules. So it's really interesting, because as we took off the reins of some of those things, it's almost like, for all of you that are parents, it's almost like the process of reverse psychology. I mean, when you say like, hey, we're not going to put any boundaries on a lot of these things. Like, you work your schedule. When are you most efficient at your day? That's when you should probably work. Not everybody is efficient in a morning. Not everybody's efficient in the evenings. And what we saw happen quickly was pretty cool, which was folks were always answering texts and doing things in the evening, because it didn't feel like a job anymore. It felt like everybody was an owner of the business. We joked that we wanted to make Sundays fun again, because Sundays are like everyone's Sunday nights specifically, most people's least favorite day of the week, right? Because the grind starts the next day, and especially if you're not in something that you enjoy. So we're like, we're going to make that fun. If you need to sleep in Monday morning, it's okay. Sunday night can be just like a Saturday. Still get your work done. And we looked at it like, if you're not getting your work done along the way, then it's probably our fault. Like, we need to be doing these things along the way. I'm a big, I've been in sales my whole life, and one of my least favorite things of all time was personal evaluations. Like, usually it was something for my manager to do, and they were getting a benefit, but I didn't. I would look at it like, man, I did really was a top 3 rep or something last year for the company, and I get like a 4.6 out of 5. I was like, what? How do I get better? I felt like I had a great year. And so we kind of joked, and we're like, you know what? We should be evaluating on a consistent basis. So, instead we created NOPE Day, which is No Personal Evaluation Day. And we force everyone to take off, and then we usually make them go to a spa or something. It's just kind of our fun little joke that, I was like, hey, we're not going to do personal evaluations. We want to coach you throughout the year at all times. And if you're failing, it means we're probably failing. We don't want to wait once a year and then we do an evaluation. So just some of the unique things that we try to do to bring our own flavor. Not everything works, and we get that. And you got to be able to pivot. But overall, those things have done really well. Like I said, we've turned into a top 10 or 12 brand, and I would say for us in the industry kind of agrees, like, we are just getting started. We really truly think that we have the uncarbonated high noon on our hands. And most of our sales to this point, crazy enough, have been organic. Of all the top 12 brands that there are that we're a part of, I think we have 8 reps now that cover states, and we just hired them last May. And everyone above us, I would say, probably has at least 30 to 50. So we're just now getting into trying to manufacture our sales. It's been very organic up till this point. So, I don't want to take everyone's time today because I know that we've got about 5 minutes. So I'll leave some time for questions. I don't know, there's a lot of things people might want to know about the industry. We won't get to them all today. I wanted to try to make sure that I'm just giving you an example of maybe how we did it. We found our own path. It was very different, very unique. We never thought in a million years we would be in the position of selling alcohol and even competing on a national scale. To give you an example, every business in front of us, I mean, there's 2 independents, I think. Most of them are, Gallo and Diageo, and, we're outselling Jack Daniels. We're outselling, these major brands, Sunny D, all these brands you see come into the market that are all owned by major companies or they have major celebrities. We're competing well, and I think it's because of our authenticity that the consumers were yearning for that. And for whatever reason, no one had ever catered to women in the market. It's kind of wine, like they would say, it was kind of wild. They would say like wine, but if you think of a product in the alcohol world that's geared towards women. It's really not there, and really the alcohol world itself is very underrepresented. We would come into our meetings, right? You go into a distributor, be 100 people in there, and there's like 3 women. Like, whoa, this is kind of wild. So I think there was also a yearning for a different brand that was speaking to maybe a different audience. And as a result of that, again, going back to reverse psychology, it's almost like we did that in marketing, because one of our number 1 demographics right now, believe it or not, I'll kind of end on this, college campuses. Might not be a surprise to some of you, but it was a surprise to us because we're called Mom Water and Dad Water, which, just real quick, Mom Water vodka, Dad Water tequila. Same product, they're both water-based. Dad Water's just a little stronger, and that's about it. So we started noticing that all of the bars across the country that were doing the best and the most volume were around universities, which was like, really? But when you think about it, we were very early on, we were all social media driven. Because again, you think TikTok and you think all these, it's kind of free. If you go viral, there wasn't a lot of money. You just had to be smart and figure out a way to go viral. And we did. And what happened was other folks would do a review of Mom Water because it was so quirky and different. And then that review would go viral. So we didn't even do anything. Like they would go out, buy it, do a review, and it would go viral and get 1 million views. And all of a sudden our brand would grow. So we were really very organically grown through social media. We're actually one of the leading social media brands in the alcohol world. That's been a big thing of ours, is kind of growing up in this younger social media. I'm not a big social media. I'm not on social media a lot. They're trying to get me on it. I consume it. I just don't put it out there. So it's been a little bit different having to learn that. But those kind of things, like getting in the college campuses, the Ole Misses of the world, Georgia, we're a top 3 alcohol brand on those campuses, which is kind of cool to see. So, it's resonating with young, our age, older, like it doesn't matter. The demographic is all over the board. And I think, again, it's because we were just kind of genuine, which you don't see a lot of in the marketplace. Everyone attaches themselves to a celebrity these days. It's not exactly the most genuine thing. And so we're trying to bring our local Dubois County, Midwest hospitality into the alcohol world. And so that's what we've attempted to do. So with that, I will kind of close. If anybody has questions, more than happy to answer them. And if not, I'll obviously stick around for a bit, so feel free to come up and ask them.
We've got 5 minutes for questions if anybody has them.
And if not, it's fine too. I know it's a big room. Don't be scared. Trying to think if there's anything else I missed. Team? Yeah? Oh, go ahead.
Did somebody have one?
No, sorry, I was...
So one thing, and you briefly touched on this, and you and I had this conversation the other day. If you can just talk about that moment, okay? So you guys both had good jobs, and you were, cruising along good, but that moment when you're faced with jumping off that cliff, right? We've got the second mortgage, and we've dumped everything we've got, and we're dumping every paycheck. And because I think so many people that have gone down that road as being a business owner and taking what was the decision in that moment of we're just gonna leap and see what happens? Because it's terrifying. I mean, it's terrifying for anybody that's been through it to invest your whole life into one decision that's a 50-50 chance of which way it can go. So if you could just maybe speak to that first.
Sure. I would say a lot of it was, shout out to John, because having, he was a bit of a safety blanket, right? Because he had gone through this before with his other companies. And he kind of knew what to look at, how to see success, how to kind of know that it's probably there. On one hand, we had the industry and folks that were in the industry saying, you guys got something really, really special that we haven't seen in decades. And we're like, well, that's pretty cool. And then John saying, listen, I kind of know how to get us a little bit from point A to point B. And then, again, going back to surrounding ourselves with the right folks. So, having Jill, John, and myself as the original three, saying, listen, we've got this safety blanket with John of comfort of going, okay, we trust John. We know that he kind of knows how to navigate some of these really tricky waters in the beginning. And then, being the first hire of Kara and folks that we had an inherent trust in. Jill's brother Adam is our COO. John's son Nayland, for those of you that know him, he's has Josh's job, but he's a VP for us in the central United States. So some of those early folks that we brought in, having a trust in that, and then having that same trust in our product and what we had, it definitely made it easier. For us, we had seen a bit of proof in the pudding, right? So we did that dual, we're working both jobs, and we kind of saw that, hey, we're having success with the real lack of resources, which was me. I mean, I was literally doing our QuickBooks, and it looked like a 3-year-old child had been doing. Those of you that know me, QuickBooks is not my jam. Lauren can tell you that. I'm like, listen, we made it this far with me doing all of that stuff. It only made us feel better and better. It was still kind of crazy. I'd say especially mom and dad, and I think most of our family is like, y'all are nuts. You want to do what? Like, I know, we had a good jobs we'd worked hard at for a long period of time, developed a lot of relationships, and so it was definitely tough, but I think we just kind of took signs of all this, and we also had a belief in what we had, and those two things together kind of, made it a lot easier. So belief in the product and yourself and your vision for it, that's probably the strongest thing. And just surround yourself with the right people early on. Be a big deal. Awesome, thank you.
All right, so one last thanks to Bryce. Clearly you keep a very busy schedule, so thanks for taking time to be here with us today and share your story. I think a lot of good nuggets of information in there that all of us can get something out of. As we close today, right on time, getting everybody back to work a few minutes early, I just want to say thank you again to Klubhaus 61, to all of our sponsors for your support of this event. Congratulations one more time to all of our award finalists and our winners, and thank everyone, all of you for joining us today. As a quick reminder, our fourth quarter small business grant is now open. You have the QR code on your table, and we look forward to seeing all the nominations that come in for our awards for next year. Thanks, guys.